Assalamu alaikum, dear beautiful souls. You must have heard somewhere in news about BALBIR Singh, or may I say Muhammad AMIR, and his convert story which leaves the world in shock. He was among those who demolished one of the historic mosques called Babri Masjid, but later with the guidance of Allah, he ended up accepting Islam as a result. He took and pledged to build and protect 100 mosques. Unfortunately, a few days back, Muhammad AMIR passed away, but he has left an incredible message to the humanity through his life journey to Islam. To know more, let's begin the story of Muhammad AMIR, who was once BALBIR Singh. He was born in Hindu Rajput upper caste family in a small village near Panipat. At the age of 22, BALBIR Singh and his best friend Yogendra Pal Singh, the most Hindu extremists, were so filled with hatred for Muslims that on 6th December 1992, they went on to demolish Babri Masjid. He was the first person to reach on the top of the central dome, brandishing a hammer in his hand. Struck the very first blow with his pickaxe into the central dome of Babri Masjid. It was such an heroic moment for him and his friends. BALBIR was hailed as a hero when he took back the brick from the destroyed masjid to his village. But his happiness didn't stay longer. As soon as BALBIR approached his father with his newfound fame and his role in the destruction of masjid, he was not well received. I told all this to my father, who became very angry. He was heartbroken and told me straight that he would not live with me because of my shameful conduct. He asked me to leave the house because he could not tolerate a person who pulled down the house of God. He also told me never to return home during his lifetime. I tried to tell him about my popularity and my active part in the destruction of the mosque, but he did not pay any heed and started leaving the house himself. But I stopped him and I told that instead I would leave this house as I could not live with an anti-Ram Bhagwat person. One day, Yogendra Pal, who was best friend of BALBIR Singh, took out some bricks of Babri Masjid and invited Hindus to come and urinate on them. A big crowd assembled there and urinated on them. This time, Allah showed no mercy. After 4 or 5 days, Yogendra became mentally ill. He became mad and always remained naked. He was the only son of the respectable landlord. He used to tear away the dresses of his mother and wanted to misbehave with her sexually. Noticed by this, Yogendra's father became very worried and took him to many pundits and spell charmers. He prayed to God for forgiveness and distributed alms, but nothing worked. One day, Yogendra Pal tried to molest his mother, but the neighbor saved her and enchained him. His father Chaudhry was so furious that he wanted to kill him. Then somebody told him to contact Maulana, who used to come to madrasa in Sonipat. This is where the story gets its first twist. Yogendra Pal's father approached the Imam of Bhavana Masjid and asked for a taviz for his son. The Imam declined to do so and instead arranged a meeting with Maulana Sahib of the madrasa. His father fell on his feet and narrated to Maulana the full story of destroying Babri Masjid. Maulana Sahib informed, those people who destroyed the sacred house of Lord had committed such a heinous crime that the entire world would have been destroyed by Almighty Allah. This man's suffering is nothing for such as ghastly crime, but to some extent, we, the Muslim, are also at fault as we fail to convey the teachings of Islam to the destroyers of Masjid. His father again fell on his feet and promised to follow his instructions and requested to cure his son. Maulana offered prayers and asked people to pray for Yogendra and his father. People coming out of Masjid were surprised to see that Yogendra had covered his private parts with his turban. Impressed by this, Chaudhry asked the Maulana to get him converted to Islam. When Chaudhry was about to go to Masjid, Yogendra said that he also wanted to become a Muslim. Both of them performed ablution and were named Muhammad Usman and Muhammad Umar. Meanwhile, Balbir's father died. He was grief-stricken at the destruction of Babri Masjid and with his son's participation in its destruction. Balbir's father would ask his wife, "Why hasn't the Lord given us birth in some Muslim family? Being Muslim, we could have been among the oppressed, not the oppressors." Balbir narrated, "He shown his anguish and despair to my mother and wished to be reborn among Muslims to bear such tyranny. He had strictly forbidden my presence at his funeral and asked to be buried like Muslims. My mother acted on his will and informed me after 8 days of his death. This made me very sad and heartbroken. I began to realize that the destruction of the masjid was an act of tyranny. Whenever I went to my mother, she used to weep and hold me responsible for the death of my noble father and condemned me. Then I stopped going home. Later, after 6 months, Muhammad Umar returned from Jamaat tour and told his story to Balbir. Balbir was filled with fear, disgust and amazement and was worried that he might also suffer the same fate as Yogendra. Muhammad Umar, who was once Yogendra, suggested to Balbir to meet with this Maulana at Sonipat. When they met, the Maulana said to Balbir, "The Lord of Lords can punish you with the same treatment as he did with the wrongdoer, Yogendra. Be sure if you do not get any punishment in this life, you are doomed to a horrible torment in the next world." What do you think what happened next? Alhamdulillah, on 25th June 1993, Balbir recited the Kalima after Luhr prayer. Maulana named him Muhammad Amir and asked him to stay for some time to learn Islamic literature and how to pray. After 3 months, his wife also embraced Islam. Balbir's mother was overjoyed to hear Balbir's journey to Islam and said that the soul of his dead father would be happy. She also became Muslim after some time. Muhammad Amir, along with Muhammad Umar, pledged to rehabilitate deserted masjids and build new ones to compensate for their ghastly act of destructions of Babri Masjid. We have decided to cooperate with each other. I would rehabilitate at least 100 deserted masjids and Muhammad Umar would construct 100 new masjids during our lifetime. With this aim, he has built 91 mosques in these 26 years. Our target is to rehabilitate our deserted masjid and build one new masjid on 6th December every year, which is the anniversary of the destruction of Babri Masjid. Brother Omar is ahead of me. Instead, my work is the part of only his work, for he became the reason to lead me out of darkness. My personal experience has told me that the destruction of Babri Masjid would have never occurred if members of Hindu masses knew something about Islam, Quran, masjids and Muslims. I am convinced that if they had possessed some basic information about these things, then they could have never committed this shameful act. 99% of Hindus are now like my father, and they believe in humanity and respect Islam. My father died as non-Muslim because nobody extended dawah to him. Verily, it is Allah who turns our hearts towards Islam. Undoubtedly, hidayah to the right path is in the hands of Allah. May Allah guide all of us. Ameen. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.